The Middle East. It's been called the cradle of civilization, the birthplace of empires, the center of faith, and the heart of conflict. This region has shaped human history for over 5,000 years. But how did it all begin? And how did we go from ancient cities made of mud bricks to modern wars over borders and oil? Let's rewind the clock. Way back. The first cities on Earth? They were built here. Thousands of years ago, something incredible happened in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, what we now call Iraq. Humans started farming, writing, building cities, and forming governments. This was Mesopotamia. And the people who lived here? They were the Sumerians. The Sumerians gave us many firsts. The first writing system, known as cuneiform, the first legal codes, the first schools, and even the first known map. They built ziggurats, huge temple structures that towered over their cities. And they didn't just survive, they thrived. Cities like Uruk and Ur became powerful city-states. Then came the Akkadians, who united the region under one rule. Sargon of Akkad, around 2300 BCE, became one of the world's first true emperors. He didn't just rule over his city. He ruled over an empire that stretched across much of the Fertile Crescent. But empires rise and fall. The Akkadians faded, and the Babylonians rose. Babylon wasn't just a city. It became a symbol of ancient greatness. Under King Hammurabi, the city reached new heights. Hammurabi's famous law code wasn't just about justice. It was about control. It told people how to live, trade, and behave. It was written down for all to see. That was power. And while Babylon thrived, so did other powers. Assyria to the north became a military machine. The Assyrians didn't just win wars. They crushed their enemies. Their empire was feared. Their kings, like Ashurbanipal, built massive libraries and palaces. But their rule was brutal. And eventually, their enemies joined forces and brought them down. By the 6th century BCE, Babylon rose again, this time under Nebuchadnezzar II. He rebuilt the city, created the Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and captured Jerusalem, leading to the Babylonian exile of the Jews. But Babylon's time was running out. To the east, a new power was rising, the Persians. Led by Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire changed everything. Cyrus didn't rule with terror, he ruled with respect. He allowed conquered people to keep their customs and religions. He freed the Jews from Babylon and let them return home. His empire stretched from India to Egypt and lasted for centuries. Then came Darius, who built roads, coins, and a postal system. He divided the empire into provinces called satrapies. It was organized, efficient, and massive, but not invincible. In 330 BCE, Alexander the Great stormed through the Middle East. He defeated the Persian king Darius III and took control of the region. Greek culture spread everywhere, blending with local traditions. Cities like Alexandria became centers of learning. After Alexander died, his empire broke into pieces. But the Middle East remained important. Then came Rome. By 64 BCE, the Romans controlled much of the eastern Mediterranean. Cities like Jerusalem, Antioch, and Palmyra became Roman centers. But the region wasn't just about politics. It was also the birthplace of religions that would shape the world: Judaism, Christianity, and later, Islam. In the 7th century CE, something major happened. A man named Muhammad began preaching a message of monotheism in Mecca. Within a few decades, Islam spread across the Middle East, uniting the Arab tribes into a single powerful force. This was the birth of the Islamic caliphates. First, the Rashidun Caliphate, then the Umayyads, then the Abbasids. Under the Abbasids, the Islamic Golden Age began. Baghdad, their capital, became the center of science, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy. While Europe was in the Dark Ages, scholars in the Middle East were writing books, building observatories and translating ancient Greek texts. They invented algebra, made advances in surgery, and preserved knowledge that might have otherwise been lost. But golden ages don't last forever. By the 11th century, the Seljuk Turks began gaining power. Then came the Crusades, a series of religious wars between Christian Europe and the Muslim world. Cities changed hands, blood was spilled, and tensions rose. Then, in the 13th century, came the Mongols. They tore through the region, destroying Baghdad in 1258. The city, once the jewel of the world, burned. Libraries were destroyed, and scholars were killed. The Islamic Golden Age came to a brutal end, but from the ashes, new powers rose. The Ottomans. By the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire controlled most of the Middle East. They ruled from Istanbul, formerly Constantinople, and created one of the most powerful and long-lasting empires in history. For centuries, the Ottomans maintained peace and order. They allowed Christians, Jews, and Muslims to live side by side. Cities like Cairo, Damascus, and Baghdad became part of a vast empire that stretched into Europe, Africa, and Asia. But by the 1800s, the world was changing fast. Europe was growing stronger. Colonial powers like Britain and France were eyeing the Middle East, not just for trade routes, but for something much more valuable: oil. In the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire started to weaken. They were called the sick man of Europe. European powers began interfering more and more. Then came World War I. The Ottomans joined the Central Powers, and they lost. After the war, the empire collapsed. Britain and France took control of the Middle East through secret deals like the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Borders were redrawn without asking the people who lived there. Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, these were all created or divided by foreign powers. It didn't matter if the people were Sunni, Shia, Christian, Jewish, Arab, Kurdish, or Persian. What mattered to the colonizers was control. Then came the discovery of massive oil reserves. Oil became everything. It brought money, but it also brought problems. By the mid-20th century, countries started gaining independence, but they weren't truly free. Many were ruled by dictators, backed by foreign powers who wanted oil and stability. In 1948, a new chapter began: the creation of the State of Israel. For Jews, it was a homeland after centuries of persecution. But for Palestinians, it was a catastrophe, the Nakba. Hundreds of thousands were displaced. Wars followed: 1948, 1967, 1973. Peace remained out of reach. Meanwhile, other Middle Eastern nations faced their own struggles. In Iran, a democratically elected leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, was overthrown in 1953 in a coup backed by the CIA and British intelligence. Why? Because he tried to nationalize Iran's oil. In his place, the Shah returned, ruling with a heavy hand. By 1979, Iranian Shah had enough. The Islamic Revolution brought Ayatollah Khomeini to power. Iran became a theocracy, anti-Western, and a major player in the region. In Iraq, Saddam Hussein rose to power. He ruled with fear, fought a brutal war against Iran in the 1980s, invaded Kuwait in 1990, and brought the region into the Gulf War. Then, in 2001, everything changed again. After the 9/11 attacks, the United States invaded Afghanistan. Then, in 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq, claiming Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. He didn't. But the invasion created a power vacuum. Extremist groups like Al-Qaeda and later ISIS rose up. Syria fell into civil war. Libya collapsed. Yemen became a battlefield. The Arab Spring brought hope, then heartbreak. And through all of this, ordinary people suffered. The Middle East became a land of refugees, protests, revolutions, and destruction. But that's not the whole story. Today, the Middle East is still rich in culture, language, and history. It's still the center of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It's home to ancient cities and modern skyscrapers, to poets and inventors, to farmers and engineers. The story of the Middle East is still being written. It's a region that's been broken and rebuilt, again and again. A place where past and present collide every single day. And to understand our world today, you have to understand this place. Because history didn't just happen here, it was born here. Watch the next video to keep going.